We're going to talk about the things you should never sacrifice for anyone, no matter what. These aren't just nice-to-haves. They're the foundation of who you are, because if you're always bending, giving, and compromising, at what point do you lose yourself? Let's dive in and find out what you should be holding on to, no matter who comes into your life. By the way, I just launched a brand new, completely free newsletter. Sign up with your email and I'll send you weekly valuable insights, tips, and exclusive content straight to your inbox. It's the perfect way to stay inspired and connected. Link is in the description. Don't miss out. 1. Your self-respect. Your self-respect is the core of your identity, and it's something that should be fiercely guarded. When you compromise your self-respect for the sake of keeping the peace or pleasing someone else, you're essentially handing over the steering wheel of your life. People will start to test the limits. They'll push boundaries slowly, eroding what you hold sacred bit by bit until you're left wondering who you even are anymore. You might find yourself doubting your own worth, accepting disrespect, and excusing behaviors you would have never tolerated before. That's the danger of giving up even a little of your self-respect. It rarely stops there. I remember a relationship I was in where at first everything seemed normal. Small criticisms started coming up here and there. You're too sensitive. You're always overthinking. Maybe you're just not good enough for that job. Because I didn't want conflict, I let it slide. I told myself these were just passing comments. But over time, I noticed I started believing those comments. I let them get to me and started shrinking myself, questioning every decision, every word I spoke. At some point, I looked in the mirror and realized I barely recognized the person staring back. I had allowed someone else's opinion to dictate how I saw myself. And it hit me hard. I'd lost the strong, confident version of myself and let my self-respect slip right out from under me. The moment I started reclaiming my self-respect was powerful, but it was also one of the hardest things I've ever done. Standing up for yourself when you've been letting others take advantage is uncomfortable, even painful. People will accuse you of changing, of being difficult, or even selfish. But here's the truth. No one wants to say out loud. Most people are comfortable with you as long as you don't make them uncomfortable. The second you start setting boundaries, refuse to accept disrespect, and make it clear that you won't compromise on what you know is right, you become a threat to the comfort zone they've enjoyed at your expense. Self-respect doesn't mean you're unkind or unwilling to compromise. It means you're willing to walk away from situations, people, and even jobs that require you to compromise your values. Yes, it's controversial to put yourself first. Like this. Society loves to romanticize self-sacrifice, to glorify bending over backward to make everyone else happy. But let's be real. If making others happy requires you to betray yourself, it's not selflessness, it's self-sabotage. Once I finally made the decision to put my self-respect first, everything changed. I started feeling stronger, more grounded, more in control of my life. Sure, some relationships fell apart, but looking back, they were the very ones holding me down. When I let go of people who didn't respect me, I made room for those who did. And I began to realize that self-respect wasn't just a choice. It was a commitment to myself, a vow to protect my own peace, confidence, and sense of worth. Here's the real deep message. Respect yourself enough to walk away from anyone who doesn't respect you. Stop justifying disrespect or bad behavior just because you understand where they're coming from. Compassion is one thing. Allowing someone to treat you like a doormat is something entirely different. There's a reason why Stoicism emphasizes the importance of self-mastery and integrity. If you lose yourself in someone else's expectations, you're letting them control you in ways they have no right to. In the end, the people who truly matter will respect the boundaries you set and appreciate the strength it takes to stand up for yourself. Those who don't, let them go. You owe it to yourself to hold on to that sense of self-respect, no matter what others think. Because here's the harsh truth. Once self-respect is gone, everything else, confidence, dignity, purpose, begins to crumble along with it. So the next time you're asked to compromise on your self-respect, remember, no relationship, job, or friendship is worth sacrificing the core of who you are. Stand your ground and let the people who can't handle it reveal themselves. Your dreams aren't just some nice-to-have add-ons to your life. They're what keep you waking up with purpose, what bring meaning to everything you do. Yet it's shocking how often people will ask or even expect you to put them aside. They'll say things like, "That's a great idea, but don't you think it's time to be realistic?" Or, "That dream is fine for now, but when are you going to grow up?" It's as if dreams are only acceptable if they're tiny, if they're reasonable enough to fit into someone else's box. But let's be real, dreams aren't meant to fit in boxes, they're meant to break them. I remember the first time I told someone about a huge dream of mine. They looked at me like I had just told them I was planning a trip to Mars. They said, "Wow, that's ambitious." That one word, ambitious, stuck with me. It wasn't encouragement. It was a polite way of saying, "That's way out of your league." I almost let it get to me. I started thinking, maybe they're right. Maybe I'm being unrealistic. But here's the thing. The people who tell you to let go of your dreams aren't the ones who will live with the regret if you give them up. That regret will sit with you. Dreams aren't just goals. They're pieces of yourself, your passions and your vision of what your life could be. Sacrificing a dream for someone else's comfort or approval is like dimming your own light because it's too bright for others. And if you do that long enough, you risk losing that spark entirely. People will sometimes make you feel that pursuing your dreams is selfish, that it means you're ignoring real responsibilities or failing to give back. But here's a thought. What if the most responsible thing you could do is chase those dreams? What if by going after what you love, you inspire others to do the same? Or maybe even create something that genuinely changes lives. A little honesty here. Think of how many people have ditched their dreams only to end up middle-aged, grumbling about the good old days, wishing they'd had the courage to try. They'll tell you they had reasons. A stable job, a family, practical matters. And those are all fair considerations, but they're not life sentences. If you can't weave your dreams into your life, you risk living a life that doesn't feel like it belongs to you. Look, I'm not saying you need to quit everything and sail around the world. Unless that is your dream, then by all means, set sail. But if your dream is quietly sitting on the back burner, just simmering away while life passes you by, ask yourself why. Who told you it had to wait? If you're not going to prioritize your dreams, who will at the end of the day? Dreams are part of what makes us feel alive. When you pursue them, no matter how crazy they seem, you're not just chasing some fantasy, you're building a life that aligns with who you really are. So next time someone says that's unrealistic, give them a smile and say, maybe it is for you. Keep your dreams alive. 3. Your time is the one thing you can never get back yet. How often do we give it away as if it's just lying around like spare change? Let's face it, everyone and everything wants a slice of your time, friends, family, work, that random person who needs a favor. just this once. But here's the truth. Your time is precious. Once it's gone, it's gone. So why do we treat it like an endless resource? I used to be that person who'd say yes to almost anything. Someone needed help moving. Sure, I've got a few hours, an extra project at work that no one wanted to touch. Count me in, but after a while, I started noticing something. I was exhausted, mentally drained, and felt like I wasn't really doing anything that actually mattered to me. My days were filled with things that felt frankly meaningless, and the people I was saying yes to were rarely around when I needed a hand myself. People often expect you to be there whenever they need something, but how many of them are actually there when you need them? It's like there's this unspoken rule that your time is up for grabs while theirs is untouchable. Don't get me wrong, I'm all for being generous and helping out when you can. But if you're constantly giving away your time to everyone else who's left holding the bag when your own priorities go unattended, that's right, it's you. And chances are you'll be the only one regretting it. One of the best lessons I've learned is that protecting your time doesn't make you selfish. It makes you smart. If someone really values you, they'll respect your boundaries when you say, "Hey, I'd love to help, but I've got my own stuff to focus on right now." If they don't respect that, then maybe they're not as invested in you as they are in what you can do for them. That's a hard pill to swallow, but it's one of the most liberating realizations you can have. Now let's be clear. I'm not saying to ignore people or abandon everyone who needs you, but not every invitation, request, or favor deserves a yes. If you're always pouring your energy into other people's plans who's filling up your tank, you only have 24 hours in a day, and if most of it is spent on other people's agendas, you'll find yourself with barely any time to work on what actually matters to you. That dream project, that hobby you've been meaning to try, they'll stay on the back burner indefinitely. Here's a controversial thought: being a little selfish with your time is actually one of the best things you can do for your relationships. When you prioritize what genuinely matters to you, you're not just happier, you're more present and energized when you're with others. When you're fulfilled, you're not constantly drained or resentful, silently thinking, "There goes another Saturday lost to someone else's to-do list." You're able to show up fully because you're not running on empty. So take a moment to think about where your time goes. Do you spend it on things that actually bring you joy and fulfillment? Or are you giving it away like free samples at a supermarket, hoping for someone's approval, gratitude, or even just to avoid a little guilt? Remember, you're not an all-you-can-eat buffet of free time for others to feast on. You're allowed to say no. You're allowed to guard your schedule fiercely, and you're definitely allowed to put yourself first sometimes. Because here's the bottom line: time is the most valuable currency you have. Spend it on the things that truly matter to you. When you look back on your life, you won't remember the small favors or the endless meetings that added no value to your day. You'll remember the moments when you were doing something you loved with the people who respected your time as much as you did. So protect your time like the treasure it is, because once it's spent, there's no getting it back. For your mental health. Your mental health is the foundation of everything else in your life. Yet it's often the first thing we let slide. You wouldn't run your car on an empty tank and expect it to take you miles. Yet somehow we expect our minds to push through burnout, endless stress, and sleepless nights without missing a beat. But here's a hard truth: without your mental health, nothing else matters. No amount of success, approval, or money can make up for a mind that's exhausted and a heart that's heavy. I'll be real, I learned this the hard way. There was a time I thought pushing through was the way to handle everything. Too much work. Stay up all night feeling like you're on the edge. just keep going, right? I kept piling on responsibilities, taking on more than I could handle, and saying yes to people who probably didn't care about my well-being as much as I assumed. At first, I convinced myself I was handling it, but it didn't take long for the cracks to show. I started feeling burnt out, losing interest in things that used to excite me, and waking up each morning feeling like I'd already run a marathon. One day, a friend pointed out that I just didn't seem like myself, and what I realized? They were right. I'd become so worn down and stressed out that I was a shadow of my usual self. That was the wake-up call I needed to start taking my mental health seriously. Here's the thing about mental health, it's not something you earn by toughing things out. You don't have to hit rock bottom before you're allowed to prioritize it. Yet so many people treat it as if it's something you only deal with when you can't hide the struggle anymore, but ignoring it doesn't make it go away. It only makes things worse. Think of it like ignoring a warning light in your car. Sure, you can pretend it's not there for a while, but eventually things are going to break down. People may try to tell you that taking time for yourself, saying no to added pressure, or even just unplugging for a day is selfish or unnecessary, but they're not living in your mind, and they're not the ones dealing with the consequences when you push yourself past your limits. Mental health boundaries aren't about being lazy or avoiding hard work. They're about preserving the one thing you need most, your peace of mind. We live in a culture that celebrates the grind, that glorifies always being on, like you're somehow weak if you need a break. But you know what? There's nothing glamorous about waking up every day with anxiety, going to bed burnt out, and living in a cycle that leaves you too exhausted to enjoy anything you're actually working for. There's a time to hustle, sure, but there's also a time to rest. And rest isn't weakness, it's essential. You wouldn't run on an empty battery forever, so don't expect your mind to either if someone tries to guilt trip you for prioritizing your mental health. Take a step back and remember that you're not here to sacrifice your well-being for someone else's comfort. Set boundaries, take a day off when you need it, and don't feel like you have to explain yourself. The people who care about you will understand, and those who don't aren't worth that kind of energy. A little self-care setting, boundaries, saying no when something isn't right for you, that's not selfish. It's survival. And in the end, your mental health isn't just about surviving, it's about thriving. Take it from someone who tried to do it all and paid the price. Your mind deserves the same care you'd give to any other part of you. And when you protect your peace, everything else will feel a little bit brighter. Your boundaries aren't just invisible lines. They're declarations of self-respect and sanity. Yet how often do we let them slip just to keep others comfortable? Sacrificing your boundaries might keep the peace temporarily, but in the long run, it chips away at your sense of self, leaving you feeling used, drained, and resentful. Boundaries are there for a reason. They protect what matters to you. Ignoring them is like giving away parts of yourself, piece by piece, until there's nothing left. Let me tell you, I used to be the yes person. If someone asked for a favor, I'd say yes. Extra work project, yes. Friend needs a ride across town at midnight. Sure thing. I thought saying yes was a form of loyalty, that it proved I was reliable and caring. But over time, I started noticing a pattern. The more I gave, the more people expected. Soon enough, my boundaries were so blurred that I barely remembered where I ended and others began. One day, I hit a breaking point. I had agreed to do yet another favor, but the weight of everything I'd taken on was crushing me. I had nothing left to give. Yet here I was giving anyway. It was a wake-up call. Either I respect my boundaries or I keep living life at everyone else's mercy. Boundaries might sound like restrictions to some, but they're actually freedom. Freedom from constant pressure, freedom to rest, freedom to spend your energy on things that truly matter, the right people. The ones who genuinely value you will respect your boundaries, but there will always be people who test them. People who think they're entitled to every piece of you. Those people will take every inch you give, taking more and more until you finally say enough. Setting boundaries doesn't mean you're shutting people out. It means you're letting the right people in. It's about creating space for what truly matters, so you can give your best without feeling drained or resentful. People may call it selfish or say you've changed, but they're usually the ones who benefited the most from your lack of boundaries in the first place. They're the ones who were happiest when you put yourself last. And that's not a standard you should live by. Boundaries look different for everyone. Maybe it's deciding you're no longer answering work emails after hours. Maybe it's saying no to a friend who only reaches out when they need something. Maybe it's choosing not to engage in conversations that drain your energy or stepping away from relationships that make you feel small. But whatever your boundaries look like, they deserve to be there. They deserve to be honored. People will test you. They'll push. They'll guilt trip, and they'll act like your boundaries are just obstacles for them to overcome. But here's the truth. People who don't respect your boundaries don't respect you. They respect what you do for them, the convenience you provide, the endless well of yes that you represent. But real respect is honoring someone's limits, even when it doesn't benefit you. It's understanding that every relationship, every job, every commitment needs healthy boundaries to thrive. Over time, I've learned that the best relationships I have are with people who understand my boundaries, who don't expect me to be on 24/7, and who don't see every no as a personal attack. They understand that my time and energy are limited, and that's okay. They don't need constant access to me to feel valued, and they don't rely on me for their happiness. And when you start setting boundaries, you'll notice that the people who truly value you, the real you, will respect them as well. Setting boundaries is hard. It requires courage, honesty, and the willingness to sometimes disappoint others. But here's the thing. You're not here to be everything for everyone. You're here to be true to yourself, to live a life that respects your needs, your dreams, and your well-being. The people who genuinely care about you will understand that and support you. The ones who don't let them go. Protect your boundaries fiercely because no one else will do it for you. You have the right to say no, to take up space, and to guard your time and energy. It's not about building walls. It's about creating space for what matters. And in the end, when you honor your boundaries, you're not just protecting yourself. You're creating a life where you can truly thrive. Your financial independence isn't just about money. It's about freedom, self-respect, and the ability to live life on your own terms. It's about knowing that you're not dependent on someone else's generosity or bound by someone else's rules. Yet too often people give up their financial independence without even realizing it. Whether it's relying on a partner, being overly dependent on family, or staying in a job that underpays and undervalues them. Sacrificing financial independence can trap you in a cycle of dependency and limit your ability to make your own choices. Let me share something personal. Early on, I thought it didn't matter if I had complete control over my finances. As long as I was comfortable, I believed that as long as I had a partner or family support, I didn't have to worry too much. But over time, I started to see the small ways that lack of independence tied me down. decisions I should have been making for myself suddenly required someone else's approval. I found myself hesitant to pursue things I wanted, even if I had enough to cover them, because I wasn't fully in control. And honestly, it was a little humiliating realizing I didn't have complete autonomy. Financial independence isn't about selfishness or not wanting to rely on others. It's about freedom. It's the freedom to make choices that align with your goals, values, and dreams without asking anyone for permission. When you have control over your finances, you're less likely to compromise on things that matter to you. You're less likely to stay in toxic situations or make sacrifices that go against your values just because you feel financially trapped. It's not uncommon to see people give up their financial independence in relationships, thinking that pooling everything together and becoming completely financially reliant on each other is a sign of trust. While sharing finances can be part of a healthy partnership, losing your financial autonomy is a different story. It can quickly lead to an imbalance of power where one person's financial control dictates major decisions, from where you live to what you prioritize. When you rely on someone else financially, even if they have the best intentions, you're putting your freedom in their hands. Think about how many people stay in jobs they hate or careers that don't fulfill them simply because they're afraid of losing financial stability. They may dream of switching paths, starting a business, or taking a break to pursue something meaningful, but the fear of losing a paycheck keeps them locked in place. This is why financial independence is so crucial. It gives you the ability to walk away from situations that don't serve you without feeling like you're risking everything. Achieving financial independence doesn't mean you need to be wealthy. It means you have control. It's about budgeting, saving, and making intentional choices that align with your goals. It's about building a foundation so that if something goes wrong, whether in a relationship, a job, or any other area, you have the means to take care of yourself. When you have that independence, you're able to focus on what truly matters to you without the looming worry of financial insecurity. One of the greatest lessons I've learned is that when you have financial independence, people can't manipulate or control you as easily. You have the power to set boundaries, to say no when something doesn't feel right, and to pursue the path that fulfills you most. You don't have to tolerate toxic relationships or stay in compromising situations just because you're financially tied to them. Of course, achieving financial independence takes time and discipline. It means learning to manage money wisely, saying no to unnecessary expenses, and investing in yourself in ways that build stability. But each step toward that goal gives you a bit more freedom, a bit more autonomy. It's worth every sacrifice because ultimately it allows you to be the architect of your own life. Don't let anyone convince you that giving up your financial independence is a small price to pay for love, loyalty, or comfort. The reality is that when you sacrifice your financial autonomy, you're often giving up more than just money. You're sacrificing your freedom, your ability to make decisions, and your sense of self-reliance. Financial independence is about respecting yourself enough to ensure you can stand on your own. Come what may, your passion is the fire that lights you up. From within the unique thing, you lose yourself in the part of life that makes you feel alive. Yet in a world that often prioritizes practicality and expectations, people quickly abandon their passions, writing them off as childish dreams or not worth the effort. And this honestly is one of the saddest sacrifices we can make. Here's the thing. Passion is fuel. It's the energy that drives you, the excitement that pushes you to stay up late. Keep learning and challenge yourself beyond what's expected. Without it, Life becomes mechanical, a series of tasks and obligations that frankly feel meaningless. But how many times do we hear things like, "I used to be into that, but then life got in the way," or "I just don't have time for it anymore"? That's the quiet surrender of a part of ourselves, and once it's gone, it's incredibly hard to reclaim. When I was younger, I had a passion that completely absorbed me, writing stories. I would write for hours, creating worlds, characters, and plots that filled my imagination. But then came the real world with its demands, its expectations of what a good career should look like, and I gradually told myself I didn't have time for it. Writing was fun, sure, but not important. I convinced myself I could live without it, focusing instead on things that were more useful. Over time, though, I felt a growing emptiness, like something crucial was missing. I tried filling it with other hobbies, but nothing quite matched the spark writing gave me. Eventually, I realized that giving up on my passion wasn't just sacrificing a hobby, it was denying a fundamental part of who I am. So I made the time, even if it was just a few hours a week, to write again. And the difference it made in my life was incredible. That little spark, that feeling of connection to something I genuinely loved, it bled into every other area of my life, giving me new energy and excitement, even in my practical pursuits. This is what so many of us forget. Passion isn't something extra or frivolous. It's essential. When you give up on your passion, you lose the very thing that makes life vibrant. No matter how many responsibilities we have or how many obligations we feel tied to, there must always be room for passion. Without it, we're simply existing, not truly living. Here's where things get real. People might say passion doesn't pay the bills or that it's just a hobby that you should focus on what matters. But the truth is, your passion does matter, maybe more than anything else. It's what keeps you curious, resilient, and alive. Giving up on it for the sake of practicality or pleasing others is a mistake that will haunt you over time. Because at the end of the day, no job, no amount of money, and no practical pursuit will replace the satisfaction and fulfillment that comes from following what sets your soul on fire. Passion is also contagious. When you pursue what you love, others notice. You become a more vibrant, engaging person, someone who's interesting and inspiring. People are naturally drawn to those who are lit up by life. You inspire others to dig deep, remember their own passions, step away from the monotonous grind, and explore what they truly love. That ripple effect, someone embracing what makes them feel alive, can be a profound influence on the world. Of course, pursuing passion takes courage. It's not always easy, especially when you feel you should be doing something more conventional. Maybe you've even got people around you who scoff at your interests or dismiss your passion as a waste of time. But here's the hard truth. Those people aren't living your life. They don't experience the emptiness you feel when you deny yourself something that truly matters. Only you know what lights you up, what gives you purpose, and what makes life worth living, and only you can choose to hold on to that. Sometimes it means saying no to obligations that drain you, stepping back from people who don't understand, or sacrificing short-term comfort for long-term joy. But if you're willing to protect your passion, to let it thrive despite the noise, you'll find a deep sense of fulfillment that no external validation can replace. Passion is a lifelong companion, and it's worth every ounce of effort to keep it alive. So don't let anyone convince you that passion is optional. Don't fall into the trap of believing you'll get back to it someday. Start now, even if it's in small doses, even if it's just a few minutes each day. Whatever it is, whether it's art, music, sports, storytelling, or something else entirely, it deserves a place in your life. Because passion, more than anything else, makes life meaningful. And that's something you should never sacrifice. And there you have it. Things you should never sacrifice for anyone. These are the things that define us, give our lives meaning, and keep us grounded in who we are. It's easy to lose sight of them in a world that constantly pushes us to compromise and fit into someone else's expectations. But remember, your self-respect, dreams, boundaries, and passions are non-negotiable. They're your foundation, your fuel, and the very essence of what makes life worth living. So as you go forward, protect these parts of yourself fiercely. Stand firm in who you are. Honor what matters most, and never let anyone convince you to give up what's truly important. Life is too short to live by someone else's rules. Own your values, prioritize what fuels you, and make choices that align with the person you want to become. Thank you for watching and spending this time with me. If this resonated with you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and maybe even share this message with someone who could use it. And remember, you deserve to live a life true to yourself. Hold on to that. It's one of the most powerful things you can do. See you in the next one.